Hello and welcome back. Thanks for joining me to read the last chapter of Flat Stanley and the Magic Lamp. The last chapter, chapter 5, is called The Last Wish. Flying back into the bedroom, the three adventurers found Mr. and Mrs. Lambchop waiting anxiously. The Liaphant, who had just finished an enormous bowl of spaghetti mixed with chocolate cookies and milk, was asleep. "Thank goodness!" Mrs. Lambchop ran to hug her sons. "Where have you been?" Mr. Lambchop was stern. "Is that you, Prince Horaz, behind that dragon face?" The genie took off his mask. "Were you worried? Sorry. We went for a little flight." "Wait till you hear," said Arthur. "You can't tell from looking, but I'm the strongest man in the world. And take off those robes and gloves," said Mrs. Lambchop. "It's not wise to get overheated." Well, they don't look very happy, do they? She went on as they put their things away. "Such an evening. The phone never stopped. I was asked to go on 4 TV shows and to advertise a new soap. They wanted to photograph me in the bathtub, so of course I said no. And then to find the window open and the 3 of you gone. Such a fright." "We thought we'd be right back," said Stanley, apologizing. "We didn't know so many exciting things would happen." Everybody sat down, and Stanley told about wishing Arthur strong, and the flying, and chasing the airplane, and the robbers on the ship. Mr. and Mrs. Lambchop both gave deep sighs when Stanley was done. "It seems, Prince Horaz," Mr. Lambchop said, "that there are often unexpected consequences when wishes come true." "Oh, yes," said the genie. "That's what got me into a lamp." "It's not just the basket problem," Mr. Lambchop said. "Mrs. Lambchop has been famous less than a day, and already she is exhausted and has lost all her privacy. And though Tom McGrude deserved what he got, his tennis comes from natural ability. I'm not proud of having shamed him by using magic. And Arthur's great strength will make other boys afraid of him," Mrs. Lambchop said. "And flying, mixing with criminals? Dear me! We must consider all this. I will make hot chocolate. It is helpful when there is serious thinking to be done." Everyone enjoyed the delicious hot chocolate she brought from the kitchen, with a marshmallow for each cup. The Lambchops sat quietly sipping and thinking. Prince Horaz, having said twice that he was sorry to have caused problems, began to pace up and down. The Liaphant was still asleep. At last, Mr. Lambchop put down his cup and cleared his throat. "Your attention, please," he said, and they all looked at him. "Here is my opinion," he said. "Genies and their magic, Prince Horaz, are fine for faraway lands and long-ago times. But the Lambchops have always been quite natural people, and this is the United States of America, and the time is today. We are grateful for the excitement you have offered, but now I must ask, is it possible for Stanley to unwish all the wishes he has made?" "It is, actually," said the genie. "How clever of you, George!" cried Mrs. Lambchop. Arthur sighed. "I don't know. I really like the flying. But being so strong, I guess nobody would play with me." "I care most about the Liaphant," Stanley said. "Couldn't we just keep him?" "He is very lovable," said Mrs. Lambchop, "but he never stops eating. We cannot afford to keep him." "Sad, but true," Mr. Lambchop said. "Now please tell us, Prince Horaz, what must be done?" "It's called reverse wishing." The genie took the little green lamp from the desk and turned it over. "The instructions should be right here on the bottom. Let's see." He studied the words carved into the bottom of the lamp. "Seems simple enough. Each wish has to be separately reversed. I just say, Mandrano." And his voice rose. "Oh, Collybots, double florts. See that little circle there? This is a training lamp. There may not be enough wishes left." "A training lamp?" exclaimed Mr. Lambchop. "What is that?" "They're for beginners like me, so we don't overdo for one person. Prince Horaz said unhappily. The little 15 in the circle, that's all the wishes I'm allowed for Stanley. The lamb chops all spoke at once. What? You never told us? Only 15? Oh dear. Please, I'm embarrassed enough, said the genie, very red in the face. A training lamp, as if I were a baby. We are all beginners at one time or another, said Mr. Lambchop. What matters is, are 15 wishes enough? The genie counted on his fingers to be sure he got it right. Asket basket, Liaphant, lucky he doesn't count double. That's 2. And fame for Mrs. Lambchop, and the fancied tennis, that's 4. Making Arthur strong is 5. Flying for him and Stanley is 2 more. He smiled. 7, and 7 for reversing is 14. 1 wish left over for some sort of goodbye treat. Thank goodness, Mrs. Lambchop hesitated. It was very late. Could you begin the reversing now, do you think? Prince Horaz nodded. I'll do the whole family in a bunch. Let's see. Strength, famous, tennis, 2 flying. Ready, Arthur? No more mighty man after this, I'm afraid. Will I feel weak? Arthur asked. Will I flop over? The genie shook his head. Mandrano, he said. Mandrano, 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 Mandrano. Arthur felt a prickling on the back of his neck. When the prickling stopped, he gave the big desk a shove, but couldn't budge it. I'm just regular me again, he said. Oh well. And I am just Harriet Lambchop again, said Mrs. Lambchop, smiling. An unimportant person. To all of us, my dear, you are the most important person we know, said Mr. Lambchop. Arthur, you are as strong as you were yesterday. Think of it that way. The genie sipped the last of his hot chocolate. Where was I? Oh, yes. He glanced at the asket basket. Mandrano. The basket vanished. Just the Liaphant now, he said. Everyone looked at the Liaphant, who was sitting up now in the corner, scratching behind his lion ears with his elephant trunk. Stanley patted him, and the Liaphant licked his hand. How sweet, Mrs. Lambchop said. George, perhaps what makes Liaphants truly happy, said the genie, is open spaces and the company of other Liaphants. Then send him where it's like that, Stanley said bravely. Patting again. The Liaphant vanished halfway through the pat. For a moment, no one spoke. Good for you, Stanley, Mr. Lambchop said softly. And now you must think of a last wish to make. While Stanley thought, Mr. Lambchop collected the hot chocolate cups. Where will you go now, Prince Horaz? She said. Back into that stuffy little lamp, said the genie, and then it's wait. Hundreds and hundreds of years, probably. It's my punishment for playing too many tricks. My friends warned me, but I wouldn't listen. He sighed. Musaf, Ali, Ben, Sifa, and Little Foz, such wonderful fellows. I think of them when I'm alone in the lamp, the fun they must be having, the games, the freedom. His voice trembled, and the Lambchops felt very sorry for him. Suddenly, Arthur had an idea. He whispered it to Stanley. Why the whispering? The genie said crossly. Let's have the last wish, Stanley, and I'll smoke back into my lamp. The brothers were smiling at each other. Good idea, right? Said Arthur. Oh, yes. Stanley turned to the genie. Here is my last wish, Prince Horaz. I wish for you not to stay in the lamp, but to go back where you came from, to be with your genie friends, and have good times with them, forever from now on. Prince Horaz gasped. His mouth fell open. Mr. Lambchop worried that he might faint. Are you all right? He asked. Is Stanley not allowed to set you free? Yes, it's allowed, the genie spoke softly, but nobody ever used a wish for the sake of a genie, not until now. How selfish people can be, said Mr. Lambchop. Prince Horaz rubbed his eyes. What a fine family this is, he said, beginning to smile. I thank you all. The name of Lambchop will be honored always, wherever genies meet. his smile enormous now. He shook hands with each of the lamb chops. The last shake was with Stanley, and the genie was already a bit smoky about the edges. By the time he let go of Stanley's hand, he was all smoke, a dark cloud that swirled briefly over the little lamp on the desk, then poured in through the spout until not a puff remained. Full of wonder, the lamb chops gathered about the lamp, and after a moment, Arthur put his lips to the spout. "Goodbye, Prince Horaz," he called. "Have a nice trip." From within the lamp, a faraway voice called back, "Bless you all!" And then there was only silence in the room. Mr. Lambchop was the first to speak. "I'm proud of you, Stanley," he said. "Your last wish was generous and kind." "It was my idea, actually," Arthur said, and Mr. Lambchop kissed the top of his head. "Off to bed now, boys," she said. "Tomorrow is another day." Stanley and Arthur got into bed, and she turned out the light. "The lamp was supposed to be a surprise birthday present," Stanley said sleepily. "Now it won't be a surprise at all." "I will love it anyhow," said Mrs. Lambchop. And Prince Horaz was a tremendous surprise. "Good night, my dears." She kissed them both, and so did Mr. Lambchop, and they went out. The brothers lay quietly in the darkness for a while, and then Stanley sighed. "I miss the Liaphant a bit," he said, "but I don't mind about the rest." "Me neither," Arthur yawned. "Flort, Stanley, and good night." "Good night, Stanley." Stanley said, "Colliebots." "Mandrano," murmured Arthur, and soon they were both asleep. The end. And that's the end of your second book, Flat Stanley, Stanley and the Magic Lamp. I hope you liked this book. I thought it was a really cute book. Go ahead online and see what question is posed for today on the website, and you can go ahead and respond back to it. I can't wait to see what you write. Thanks a lot for doing the book club with me over the summer. We had a lot of fun reading our 2 books, and I look forward to seeing you at the beginning of school soon.